Good Thursday morning to you, and welcome to a special edition of Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant, and this morning we are having some coffee and some court outside of the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan in New York, where Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial is taking place. So we're going to kick off the show like we always do by having you grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. It is history in the making. One of the biggest stars in the world, Sean Diddy Combs, arrested, accused, and forced to get accustomed to life behind bars as he awaits the start of his trial. After 28 days of intense testimony, the final chapter begins today, the closing arguments. After they conclude, the jury goes on to deliberate. And my friends, there's a very real possibility that after 9 long months in jail, Sean Diddy Combs could walk out of this courthouse behind me and get his freedom back. There's also an equal chance that he stays behind bars, and it could be for a very long time. Now, if the government proves just only the sex trafficking charge pertaining to Cassie Ventura, well, there would be a mandatory minimum punishment imposed of 15 years in prison. This is anybody's case, and Diddy surely has the most at stake. But judging from his comments to the judge when he told him that he's doing great, I would say the music mogul is very confident about his case. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
And what kind of things was he saying to make you feel like he was upset? How was he acting?
It's going pretty insane. I'd say he was using vulgar language, cussing. Jack, look what the F they did to your car.
All right, so here are some of the other cases that we are tracking for you this morning. In Connecticut, we've got testimony continuing in the murder trial for defendant Raul Valley. That begins 10 a.m. Eastern time. In Florida, we've got the state's case continuing in the missing boyfriend murder trial for defendant Christopher Davis. Court gets underway 9 a.m. Eastern. And in New York, we've got closing arguments beginning at 10 a.m. in the case we were just talking about, the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. This is history in the making. A huge day here in New York City. People are lining up already. People have been here overnight at the courthouse getting ready for the all-important closing arguments.
The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways.
How are you all feeling right now? Anything you want to say?
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight anymore.
So what can we expect today during the closing arguments? I can't wait to watch. Let's bring in our power panel and see what they think. We got our own dream team here on Opening Statements. Next to me here, I've got Mario Gallucci, and joining us remotely, I've got John Phillips and Michael J. Brown. Wonderful to have you all here.
Nice
Mario, great to be alongside you.
Yeah,
you practice at this courthouse all the time.
Yes, I am. I was here this week, and I'll be here again on Tuesday.
Yes, and so does Michael. I know that. And so you gentlemen are very familiar with this place, and all three of you are certainly familiar with high-profile trials. You're all high-profile criminal defense attorneys, and so let's talk a bit about what we expect to see in the closing. So let's start with the government, and then let's move on to the defense. So with the government, what do you expect to hear from them, Mario?
So they're going to try to put together the racketeering count. They're going to have to say that Diddy formed this criminal enterprise. The criminal enterprise was the freak-offs or the King Days, and that as a result of doing that, he sex trafficked, he drug trafficked, he bribed, he coerced, and he beat people. It was all part of this enterprise. And if they're able to put all of those predicate acts together, they're going to improve the enterprise, then he's going to have an issue. And that's what the government's going to try to do. Say this was an organized effort to pull us off.
Michael J. Brown, tell me, what do you think the defense may be doing today in the closing arguments? What they may be saying? What do you think is going to be top of mind for them in their arguments, please?
Good morning, Julie. Welcome to New York. The defense is going to highlight the problems with each witness's testimony. They're going to emphasize the allegation, a suggestion that these were willing participants. They were in it for the money. They were in it for the fame. They were in it to associate with a celebrity, and that it was a consensual type of situation from beginning to end. And that is what I assume the defense is going to focus on. And they're going to point out that the prosecution failed to establish a case beyond a reasonable doubt, that they did not deliver on all the things they promised. And I think they're going to highlight, again, the credibility issues from each of the prosecution witnesses.
Sure. John Phillips, let me ask you about the jury, the jurors. What do you think they're going to be watching for today?
You know, this is kind of what you wait for, right? You've had 30 plus witnesses. You're in the middle of a spectacle of a trial. You know you are, right? You know the parties and the sensation and the media as you come and go from the courthouse. And I think they finally get to sit back, you know, kind of munch on some popcorn and see both the prosecutor and the defense tie it together. And you know, you're going to hear things like Cassie texting, "I want to be your little freak," and you know, they're going to compare, you know, the jurors' lifestyle. Put that aside. This is a very different lifestyle here, and so they're going to have to take the jurors on each different side through fact patterns that wouldn't have ever applied to their life and try to get them to side with them.
Yes, and John, I'm so glad you said that. That was something that Mario and I were talking about as we were here this morning. Chatting before the start of the show. And Mario, I would love for you to share kind of what you did with me as we were talking about what do you think is going to happen, right, and how you were saying you think when Mark Agnifilo gets up there, one of Diddy's lawyers, you know him in the community, you're part of the bar here, you said that he's going to make it very clear that jurors, this may not be your lifestyle, but it's not criminal.
Right. Well, what he's going to try to do is say, look, this isn't your lifestyle. Exactly what you just said. This is not something that is normal to all of you.
Right.
But this is normal to him. And this is what he enjoyed to do. And these people participated in that. And although you may not like it, and although this may not be your cup of tea, this is not criminal. This is something that is what I'm into doing, you're not into doing, but it's certainly not criminal activity.
Right. No, and that's such a, I think, you know, a smart way to go with this, because you earn some credibility, don't you, Mario? We saw you when you did the treadmill abuse murder trial, and I was complimenting Mario, saying how, you know, you conceded that this was a bad act, bad parenting, letting that child run on that treadmill. But you said it was far too attenuated to connect it to the murder charge. And so here, conceding, Michael J. Brown, if they concede Diddy's a violent guy, an abusive boyfriend, and has some proclivities that members of the jury may not have. What do you think? Do you think the defense has a good shot here, Michael? Your thoughts?
I don't, Julie. The defense has to concede those points. That video is so damning, and I think the prosecution played it perfectly. That was the beginning of their case. They played this video no matter what kind of lifestyle you have. That is unacceptable, and what it does is it kills the whole notion that, hey, he's famous and he's a good guy and he's a celebrity. By playing that video, it kills him. And what's going to happen is, if I'm the prosecutor, sometimes when you play a video, it numbs the jury. They can't play this video enough. I could see the prosecutor playing it 5, 6, 8 times after each point. It doesn't get old. It really, really is an effective piece of evidence for the prosecution.
Oh, that's good. I'm so glad you said that, Michael. Thank you for that. John Phillips, dovetailing off of that, let me ask you, please, for the government, it's on them. We all know they've got the burden. They must carry it. They brought this case. Diddy didn't ask to come here. They brought him here. Tell me, what do you think the government needs to do, John, when they get up there? How do they convince these jurors that there is an enterprise, that what happened was criminal and not just Diddy's sex life?
Like Michael said, you got to heavily feature that video, and you're going to have to explain to jurors who otherwise think of sex trafficking as something else. Like, we all hear about it and assume it's just this kind of underground commerce of selling women to men or putting them in the trade. And this is just different. It's coercion, it's bribery, it's all of those things. And so the first uphill battle is kind of convincing the jury that no, you got to look at this a little different related to sex trafficking, and then get into the racketeering conspiracy and the obstruction of justice and the bribery and the narcotics offenses. Like, all of the drugs here that were bought, sold, used in these parties is a big deal. And so they need their 4 hours to get through it all.
Right. You're right, John. This is a big deal. This case, I mean, it's huge. It's historic, what we're witnessing. Mario, love to ask you about the New York juries you typically see that get chosen in this courthouse. How do you think they may be receiving this?
So you have a very liberal county. Yeah. I mean, New York County is a very liberal county. Sure. So you got, and I believe it's 8 and 4. Mm-hmm. You have, they're going to listen. They're going to listen to what's going on. They're going to take it all. And if they follow the judge's jury charge, that's what you want them to do, follow the jury charge. It's going to be a very complicated jury charge. I think that they're going to bring it home. I really do.
Well, this is anybody's case.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. If there ever was a case where, I mean, you could flip a coin and who's going to win this, don't know. And boy, we know Diddy has the most at stake, certainly. Mario, John, Michael, thank you much. Stand by for more questions, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up for you on Opening Statements.
He mentioned that when we were out of the country, that Scott's car would be blown up. John wanted Scott's friends to be there to see the car get blown up in the driveway.
Ms. Ventura, what do you recall happening at the end of the meeting?
Scott said, "What about my vehicle?" And Sean said, "What vehicle?"
You heard Mario mention this a moment ago, the jury instructions. Well, we're going to talk about what isn't going to be part of them. That's next. Plus, how Diddy is impacting his own case, his body language, his movements. He told the judge this week he's doing great. We'll talk about how that could sway the jury.
Brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
Oh my God, this doesn't happen here.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger.
You could tell there was some off about him. He was stalking them. He was hunting them.
Forget about motive. We don't even have a connection.
This trial will be on Court TV.
And I pray that we have justice.
The Idaho College Student Murders Trial. Live coverage begins this August, only on Court TV.
So starting with blood, how would blood get on the linens at freak-offs?
I was expected to have freak-offs on my period.
Who expected you to do freak-offs on your period?
Sean.
Who decided how many entertainers you would be with in a single hotel night?
Sean.
How did you feel during the freak-offs when Sean beat you?
Worthless, just like dirt, like I didn't matter to him. But that I was nothing, like absolutely nothing.
How did you react to seeing news coverage and social media posts about Cassie's lawsuit?
Because there was 3 specific pages that was just a harrowing resemblance to what I was experiencing.
Welcome back to this special edition of Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. The jury in Diddy's federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial has heard lots of very damaging testimony over the past 6 weeks. But some new developments has us focused this morning about what isn't a part of the jury instructions those men and women will get when they go to deliberate the case. Now, the prosecution simplified, clarified the predicate offenses to that big overarching racketeering conspiracy charge. That is count number 1. And essentially they streamline the instructions that the jury will get. They're not going to hear about everything that could potentially be considered a predicate act. So what they did was they pulled the attempted arson allegations. Remember that about Diddy allegedly setting up the bombing of rapper Kid Cudi's Porsche? That was something we heard Kid Cudi testify about earlier in the trial.
What was your understanding of where the Molotov cocktail was found by law enforcement?
In the driver's seat.
I think you mentioned this, but was your car able to be repaired?
No.
What was your reaction to your car being set on fire?
What the f?
Kid Cudi told the jury about his meeting with Diddy after his car was damaged, saying, quote, Sean Combs was standing there staring out the window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. So the first question we're asking, can prosecutors prove arson? Let's bring in our guests, our legal egos. With me, Mario Gallucci, and remotely, attorney John Phillips. Great to see you both. Okay, so Mario, this can be, I think, very confusing, and I saw a lot of incorrect reporting about it yesterday. There were lots of people saying charges were dropped, and I'm going, no, they're not dropped. We're talking about, it can be confusing, these racketeering activities, these predicate acts that are underneath the big overarching count one of the racketeering conspiracy. So explain to us, if you would, Mario, how the jury's heard about the Kid Cudi incident. It's not like they're going to discount it, forget it, but how does it fit into the bigger charge overall with what the government's trying to do?
So what the government is doing is not unusual. It happens in all these types of cases. When you have so many predicate acts and you want to go to the jury, what you try to do is make it simple for them. So the predicate acts that you believe maybe you didn't do as well on as other ones, you will cull them from the predicate acts. So the arson was going to be very difficult for them to prove. There was really nothing tying Diddy to that arson except for him standing there and being very confident that he had nothing to do with it. Like Superman, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because that was one, we've talked about it before, where they can try to argue that it was proven, but is it a slam dunk? No, right? We don't have a direct admission. We just had Cassie had those statements. She said that Diddy made to her when they were out of the country, and we know that Diddy denied it when Kid Cudi had confronted him about it. So they were smart to remove that, weren't they? It just wouldn't have gone over with the jury. But the jury can still think about that being something dangerous, suspicious, perhaps criminal underneath that big count one, can't they?
Well, what they're going to have is now a big picture. So they're not going to forget about the arson, but when they go back and deliberate, they're not going to, it's not going to be a predicate act, but somebody back there can say, you know what, and in addition to that, how about this arson? You know, why are we not here on that? But this was part of that. This is part of that big picture, trying to show how evil he was and this enterprise he put together. So that's how it would go.
Right, Mario, exactly. They're still going to think about it. And we know that there were several arguable predicate acts proven throughout the progression of this case. John Phillips, let us turn to you on that point. So even if the arson goes away, under the statute, they just need to prove 2 bad crimes within a 10-year period. Do you think they've got that?
They definitely have that. So, yeah, you've got the racketeering, conspiracy, umbrella, but within that, you've got the obstruction of justice related to the intimidation of Jane and Mia. You've got bribery of the $100,000 to security guards. I'm actually looking at my notes. All the narcotics offenses that we've talked about. There's the Capricorn Clark kidnapping incident. There's all sorts of different crimes that they're the forced labor that they're trying to to focus in on. Arson not being the best the best set of facts that they have. They've got so many others.
Right, John. I'm glad you mentioned the alleged kidnapping incidents with Capricorn Clark, because that was one that I remember thinking this was pretty stunning, and there were really 2 alleged kidnappings that were discussed in that courtroom. We had evidence provided to that end. But yesterday, the government said, you know what, we're going to pull back on this. They apparently don't think they have proven it to the point of beyond a reasonable doubt to make it count as a predicate. So it seems to me that they're assessing what's weak in their case. They seem to think that these charges pertaining to Diddy's assistant, I shouldn't call them charges, predicate acts, pertaining to Capricorn Clark, may not be as strong as other predicates that John just named. And then same with the arson that we just discussed. We know that Capricorn Clark was taken to a building, and she said she was given a lie detector test to see if she stole Diddy's jewelry. We have that moment from the trial. Let's take a listen.
And after you entered, was the front door kept open or locked behind you? It was locked behind us.
How do you know that?
I could see the gentleman locking us in.
How could you see it?
Through the glass door.
And what did he tell you was the reason you had been brought to the building?
He says I had been brought to the building to take a lie detector test to figure out what happened with this jewelry.
What, if anything, did he say would happen if you did not pass the test?
He said if you fail these tests, they're going to throw you in the East River.
All right, so our next question is, will these new streamlined jury instructions work against Diddy? Ooh, okay, so that's interesting. So they're pulling out the weak stuff, Mario.
Yep.
What do you think?
So they're going with their strength.
Yeah.
They're taking everything that they have, the strength in, and taking all the stuff that they're not strong on, giving that to the jury. So it's absolutely to their benefit. I mean, that video, as we discussed earlier, that's violence. You know, the bribery, we have the forced labor. You know, this guy was working how many hours a week? Over 100 hours a week.
Yes.
Forced not to sleep. You have drugs everywhere. So, yes, I mean, they're going with what they have that's strong, and the stuff that they didn't have, they pulled out, let the jury concentrate on the best of the best, and forget about the rest.
Right. I love that. I love that, Mario. That's so great. John Phillips, tell me, we know that earlier this week, when we got to the point in the case where Diddy said that he's not going to testify, and the judge was doing the colloquy, and initially very casually said, "How are you today, Mr. Combs?" He said, "I'm doing great, Your Honor. I'm doing great," and then proceeded to tell the judge, "Thank you. You've been doing an excellent job." Kind of made the judge, laugh ever so slightly. We understand. Tell me, John, what is that confidence in Diddy signal to you here?
You know, there's two sides to that. One is kind of who Diddy is. He's enough of a I don't know if the word's narcissist, because people use that way too much these days, but he's certainly a schmoozer, and he's done extremely well with, business relationships, and understands how the game is played. On the same token, as a lawyer representing high-profile individuals, you want them down to earth. You want them likable, and to kind of break that shell. And Diddy knows that. His team is very, 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 very talented. And, you just want your client, particularly a high-profile client facing all of these horrible, horrible things, to just be likable and normal.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, most definitely. So he's showing a lot of confidence. Mario, in terms of the instructions getting streamlined, you wouldn't necessarily call that a victory for Diddy, would you? Or is it a small victory?
I don't think it's a victory at all. I don't think it's anything. I think it's, it's not, like I said, it's not unusual. I think what the government is doing is going with the best that they have and putting that before the jury, not to distract them. So you don't want a juror going back there and say, well, they didn't prove the arson. Maybe this isn't an enterprise corruption case on something that's nonsensical. You don't want to get them confused. So take that out and go with the strength.
Mm-hmm. No, most definitely. Oh, what a case. What a case. John Phillips, I know we're going to have to let you go. Any predictions yet, or is it too soon to predict which way this will go?
I feel like it's going to be kind of a mixed verdict. I think they're going to get him on some, not get him on some. It's fascinating. The defense is totally going to focus in on the fact that Cassie was even making jokes about baby oil, and that this is just a different kind of lifestyle, and there's secondary motivation. But it's a fascinating one. I miss y'all in New York City. Hope y'all stay safe.
Thanks so much, John. It was wonderful having you on the show this morning. I know we need to let you go to court. You got cases to win. We've got more to discuss here. Mario is coming along with me. I want you to do the same at home. Go refill your coffee. It's Coffee in Court in Lower Manhattan today, outside of the courthouse. And we're talking next about how Diddy is doing in this case. All the optics, the way he dresses, the way he carries himself. How might the jury be perceiving him? Plus.
And then who texts Mr. Combs in the very next line at 8:17 a.m.?
Bridget Kreshover, good morning. There was a mistake with the cash. We are $600 short. Can you please cash app 600 Cowboys, 4 Angels?
The big question, did Diddy pay for escorts? We'll talk about that in What's Tipping the Scales. Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. This morning, the spotlight is on Sean Diddy Combs, and we're talking about him in his trial, his body language, his gestures, the optics, how it affects everything, and what the members of the jury may be thinking as they're watching him. So we know that cameras are not allowed in federal court, unfortunately. Hopefully that changes. So we rely on sketch artists, right, to show us what he's looking like. And he looks a lot different than he did before he was arrested. His hair is very gray now. He's got a little goatee on his chin. His clothes, very conservative. He likes to wear sweaters every day. He wears a dress shirt underneath them. And his interactions with the judge have been kind of up and down. So we know that he was admonished by the judge at one point in time, and then earlier this week, he ended up thanking him, as I mentioned.
Mr. Combs, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Your Honor?
Good.
I want to tell you thank you. You're doing an excellent job.
Okay, I appreciate that. In the last 48 hours, have you taken any drugs, medicine, pills, or had any alcohol?
No, I have not.
Is your mind clear today?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand what is happening here in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
And I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously during that line of questioning. That is absolutely unacceptable. Is it going to happen again, Mr. Agnifilo?
It's not going to happen again, Judge.
So, how is Diddy affecting the jury? I mean, he's a big star. Let's talk about that. He's got to have a star presence, right? Or maybe he doesn't. Let's bring in two very high-profile criminal defense attorneys in New York. With me outside the courthouse, attorney Mario Gallucci, and joining me remotely, attorney Michael J. Brown. And you both also have been prosecutors as well. So you both have those experiences on both sides of the courtroom and also in both federal and state court. You both have practiced. So thinking about Diddy, this mega star, I mean, when we think of some of the biggest stars in the world, he's one of them. He's up there at the top of the list. Mario, I'm wondering if anybody may be starstruck. Your thoughts on knowing the New York juries. What do you think about that?
So in New York, anywhere else, I would say yes. You were going to have that starstruck, wow, that's Diddy. But here in New York, he's just another guy. He's a celebrity. He's just Diddy, right? They see him in the streets. They see him around. They see him in the nightclubs when he's here. So, yes, I don't think that the jury is going to be affected or starstruck by him. However, when we talk about your actions in court, as an attorney, as a defense attorney, I've always cautioned my clients to always be on their best behavior. The jury's watching everything, especially you. They're focused on you. So don't, do anything that's untoward. Don't do, shake your head. Don't do any of those things. Just be polite, and that's it.
Yes, yes. Let me go to you, Michael J. Brown, on some of the optics surrounding Diddy's look and appearance. And for anybody just tuning in, you gentlemen know we do this with every defendant, every trial. We talk about how they're dressed, how they're carrying themselves. So he's gray now. He wears sweaters every day, a different colored sweater, and he likes to wear the white dress shirt underneath with a pressed collar. In terms of that choice of attire, Michael J. Brown, we want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Julie. I'm dating myself, but it's the Mr. Rogers look where they're softening his look, they're doing the cardigan, and it kind of contradicts what's being portrayed in the courtroom. So I do love that. But in regards to the starstruck aspect, again, yeah, I differ with Mario in the sense that I know it's New York, but I do believe that jury would be starstruck from the moment they walk into the courtroom during jury selection. But once they see that initial video, I think that starstruck part of it is diffused. And I think that's, again, why the prosecution did a great job about introducing that early. Because, yeah, he's a star, he's a celebrity, he's successful. But when they see him, and there's no way around it, beating a female, beating his girlfriend, that kills the whole starstruck atmosphere. And then they take it from there. And they chipped away as they went along, witness by witness by witness. And I guess you kind of know what my prediction's going to be. But I think they did a good job, and his look is not going to defeat the evidence.
Definitely. Well said, Michael. Let's go back to that moment together when Diddy told the court he will not be testifying in his own defense.
Is it your decision not to testify in this case?
That is my decision, Your Honor.
Is that your decision? Now, it could be...
That is solely my decision.
Solely your decision. Okay, is there any further questions?
I mean, it's my decision, but with my lawyer.
All right, just to clarify, do you understand that it is your decision to make?
Yes, my decision to make. I'm making the decision.
And you've made the decision freely and voluntarily on your own behalf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's talk about that decision. Mario, what do you think, please?
So that's the biggest decision a defendant has to make, and one that a lawyer really can't have any control over. If you remember the beginning of the case, Mark Agnefello said that there's no way he's going to be able to keep him off the stand, and now we have him saying, I don't want to testify. It is his right. Lawyer has no control over that. You could give them your advice, you could give them your counsel, but if they want to testify, then you need to prepare them for that and let them go at it. I think he made a very good decision here, though.
Yes, I'm with you on that. Michael J. Brown, are we 3 for 3? Do you agree this was smart for him to stay quiet?
Trifecta. I do agree, Julie. You know, a defendant always wants to tell their story, but it subjects them to cross-examination. You have some real seasoned prosecutors here, and a good defense attorney really, no matter how good they are, it's very tough to protect your client when he gets on the stand, tells his story. He's subject to that cross-examination, and everything is game, and it becomes very problematic. And now what you can do is everything as a defense attorney that you've done, it can all be unraveled by the defendant's testimony, but more importantly, by the cross-examination. So we work so hard week after week, and what could happen is it can all become unraveled. So I agree with both of you. I think it was a wise move.
Michael, thank you for that. So thinking about how the closing arguments will go, we got a little bit of an idea about the length when the judge said there's a 4-hour limit. Each side gets 4. Is that typical, Mario?
No, that's a long summation. That's long. I mean, I think the longest.
Smiling, he knows too.
I think the longest summation I ever did was 2 hours, and that was in the Gregor case.
Sure, the treadmill,
yeah.
Right, that we all
and even in that, I saw the jurors at like an hour and a half into it. You know, like, all right, enough. So 4 hours. I mean, it's a big case. It's a racketeering case. It's a long time. I mean, they don't have to use their 4 hours. They got 4 hours. I don't think they're going to use it, though.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Michael J. Brown, I want you to weigh in on that. 4 hours in your practice. Have you ever been allotted that much time for close?
Never, ever, ever, Chili. So even in a 4-week murder trial, maybe I'll go an hour and 15 tops. Now, listen, I understand there's a tremendous amount of evidence. There's 30 witnesses. There's a lot to say. It was a month or so. But let's understand, baseball games, movies, Broadway shows, they don't last that long. They don't last that long because we as human beings cannot keep our attention that long. We lose our focus and our attention. About an hour and 15, like Mario said, you see jurors dozing off. Now, the flip side is you have 12 people, and it's collectively in the jury room what they discuss, and this person may zone out here and that person may zone out there, and collectively they'll put it all together. But I do not believe that anything more than an hour and a half is going to be productive. That's just my personal belief.
Really, really smart analysis, Michael. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, if you can't say it, you know, in an hour's time, something might be very wrong. What you want to argue to your jury, general self-practice advice that we all know has held true. So, Mario, for folks wondering, in this jurisdiction, is there rebuttal? Would the government have to allot some time for rebuttal from their 4 hours, or generally is it just each side gets to close?
Each side gets to go, but they can rebut. They can't. I don't think they're going to do it here. I mean, it's very rarely used, a rebuttal. Okay. But they could.
They could.
They could. Yes, they could.
We'll see. So as of now,
I mean, if the defense says something in their summation that they think they need to rebut, they will. But I cannot see the defense in this type of case opening a door.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, gosh. I can't wait for these closing arguments to begin in just a short time from now. That was a long line outside. It's getting longer and longer. I was standing in it earlier to get a seat in a little while. Mario, thank you much. And Michael J. Brown, thank you. You got to get off to court. You've got cases to win. We'll see you soon. And my friends at home, grab another cup of coffee. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
Agent, do you remember looking at financial records just now?
Yes.
In essence, do they show that Sean Combs paid to transport Cabrale Williams across state lines?
Objection.
Sustained.
As Sean Diddy Combs faces a federal jury, Court TV's Kelly Craft is live from New York.
It was an emotional day in court.
With every development, the Diddy sex trafficking trial. Live updates on Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
So many eyes have been on Donna Adelson from the beginning.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy.
How are you guys feeling? How'd it go today? Step to the side, please.
Approximately how many bottles of baby oil would be used in a typical freak-off?
A lot. I would say definitely somewhere close to 10.
He would punch her, choke her, drag her, slap her in the mouth. I saw him kick her, punch her in the stomach.
Why did you try to keep the person who abused you happy?
Because when he was happy, I was safe.
As a result of your testimony here today, Ms. Richard, are you expecting any compensation?
I'm expecting justice.
Now for what's tipping the scales, you could say it's all about the Benjamins. When it comes to Diddy on trial, a big question is, did Sean Combs pay escorts? So this is really key when we think about the government's case against him. They're alleging that he is a racketeer, that he conspired with his enterprise to lure women into relationships and sex traffic them by force. He's also accused of transporting people across state lines to engage in prostitution. Let's listen to some of the court testimony through the help of transcripts and AI.
And are the rest of the texts between Bridget and Mr. Combs?
Yes.
I'll read Bridget and you read Mr. Combs, and we'll continue with the next page. Bridget, https, cowboys.com/cowboy/Cody. Great guy. He's solid.
Okay, I'll hit you with info and stop raising my rates. I'm a long-timers.
It's not about your rate. It's about the guys' rates. You want the best guys? They got the highest rates.
So we know the FBI went through Combs' alleged escort expenses. The government says that many of those expenses were charged to Diddy's American Express card. But did he pay them? There's no evidence that he directly handed anybody any money. So let's talk about what tips the scales of justice. Let me turn to my friend Mario Gallucci, who practices in this courthouse all the time. You were just here earlier this week, weren't you?
Yeah, this week. I'll be here Tuesday.
Oh, very good. So when we think about the charges on his card, but no evidence he actually handed any dollar bills to anyone, what does that make you think as a defense attorney?
So he does a very good job of insulating himself by using these assistants to do his bidding, let's say. So, no. Did he pay for an escort? Did they use his card? Yes, but people use everybody's card. So that doesn't really matter. The government, though, is going to turn around and say, this is why it's an enterprise, and he's the top of the enterprise, because he got these assistants to procure drugs. He got these assistants to get prostitutes. He got these assistants to bring them across state lines. So he's the capo, we'll say, and these are all of his henchmen.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So when at first glance, it's like a law school problem. At first glance, it might look one way to you, and then you dig a little deeper, and so you might, oh, okay, clean hands. You could say someone else charged this to my card. Could have been, you know, one of the girlfriends involved with him, an assistant who had access, right? But then when you put it that way, Mario, that is the whole point of count one. Count one, the allegation that he was running this massive enterprise. And to be clear, I think a good point of clarification I would love to talk with you about, Mario, is how I'm seeing a lot of what do I want to call it? Maybe misunderstanding when it comes to the business itself. It doesn't have to exist solely for crime. We see RICO charges all the time for legitimate businesses. So nobody is saying that everything he did was illegitimate. No, he had many legitimate business ventures that were quite successful. The question is, were employees used during the course of their employment to carry out crimes at his behest?
And the answer is that's what they're trying to prove. That, you know, you didn't see any predicate acts that deal with him signing a performer. You didn't see any predicate acts with him releasing his own music. Right. You didn't see any predicate acts with his clothing line. So all the predicate acts deal with how he used those same people that helped with the clothing line, that helped promote his music business, also helped him in procuring drugs, in procuring prostitutes, in making plans to get them out of state and into another place. So he's the leader, and these are his henchmen.
Right. Brilliant analysis, Mario. The way you explain that, I think, is so key, and it's so helpful. And don't you think the government really has to simplify it for this jury today to make them see the conspiracy and not just Diddy's sex life that may be stunning and off-putting to some people?
Yeah. So racketeering is always a very difficult charge to uphold. When you have a mob case, people know automatically what it is. When you have a case like this and its nuances, and you have Sean Diddy Combs, it's very important for them to break it down. Keep it simple. That's it. That's the best way they're going to do it. Right. And you're going to see that in summation today.
Right. Mario, I would love to get a prediction from you, if you don't mind, please. I know it's hard to know which way a jury is going to go. I always say, you know, I've won cases I should have lost. I've lost cases I should have won. You just never know. Any good trial lawyer will tell you that. If you had to predict how this is going to go, what would you say and why?
So I don't think they proved the racketeering. I think they're going to have a very difficult time upholding that racketeering count. So I think he may walk on that count, and I think Mark is going to do a very good job at showing, like I said at the beginning of the show, this is not your lifestyle. This is practically nobody's lifestyle, but just because you don't like it and you don't appreciate it does not mean it's a crime. So I think they're going to have a difficult time sustaining that racketeering count, which is, that's it. I mean, that's the life count.
Right. Life in prison. We'll wait till the emergency vehicle passes. A life in prison would be the penalty that could be imposed, as you noted, Mario, if Sean Combs is convicted of that racketeering conspiracy charge. There's also a mandatory, which I know you're aware of, Mario, with the sex trafficking charges. So we've got two of them, one pertaining to Cassie Ventura, one pertaining to the woman under the pseudonym Jane. If he's convicted of either of those, it's a mandatory minimum of 15 years behind bars. Diddy's 55 now. He would be in until at least he's 70, maybe longer. So to me, I would be really concerned about that as well, even just one of those being proven.
So if one of them is proven, it's a 15-year minimum. That doesn't mean that's what he's going to get. He could get much higher than that. Yes. And it's up to the judge. As you know, in the federal system, the judge has the ultimate burden of crafting the appropriate sentence. So his lawyers are going to argue for 15 if he gets convicted, and they're going to argue for much more.
Such great analysis. Love having you here in person. Mario Gallucci, you got cases to win. We got to let you go to court. Thank you much. And I want to hand things over to my friend back at headquarters, Ted Rollins. He's got you covered for this next hour. Hey, Ted.